So very good afternoon and assalamualaikum to all. So today I would like to make a video about the research gap, means the things that related to how to start or how we define our gap before we're doing the research. Okay, so this video might be important for those who is just starting the research study. Okay, so either Master by Science, PhD, or degree, what we call it, final year project. So hopefully for those who are watching this video will be having a kind of benefit to this informatics videos for your study. All right, so this video will be talking about three subtopics. So the first one is a gap. Okay, speaking of the gap in research, okay, in the broad field. Okay, so in this particular things, basically we would like to see how and discuss how it's gonna be things that happen in this broad field. So I will explain it in how to look and determine the limitation on the existing result based on this field. So secondly will be gap in research in specific field, the one that we embark our research, whereby the sub point is the same, but this will be the dedicated kind of field. And the last but not least is research understanding and limitation on that particular study that we have conducted so far. Right. So gap in research in the broad field. So in this video, basically, I will be talking about one of the example, doing, let's say we do the person identification, for instance. Okay, so these are the main topic of, let's say, of our study, either Master Science or PhD. Okay. So this is the keyword over here, which might be given by your supervisor, or might be discussed with your supervisor, or might be set by your company or something else. So that would be person identification. In other words, in looking up this particular field in broad way, so basically we can see that the identification would be the most I think the main sets over here. So identifications. So then what we call it, in order to find the gap in the broad field. Okay, so to do the identification, basically we requires to understand the definition, obviously, okay, of the identify. So then after that we might see what is the things that happening as this thing work done by the researcher, for example. So we might take a look at what is the trend. It could be the trend, and then it could be the approaches. It could somehow it might be say as a software kind of thing that the tools has been used to run or to stimulate the analysis of that particular broad field. Okay, and whereby we try to see to how to say to classify the papers or journal in order to do that, right? Okay, and obviously to classify the journal, then instead of talking about the identification, we then could discuss about what is the object then. Okay, so either the object for the education purposes is an object, indoor object, right? So either the outdoor object or animals or human then. So that we might be talking about the next slide, specific field. So regarding to the broad field, so as I mentioned earlier, this will be the one that having said of the we need to identify this the definition at first. So what is the things that happen in identification? Basically, we might say that the identification say that we are working on computer vision. Okay, right? So in that particular computer vision, we might have several tasks, right? So we have what it is, classification, for example. We have detection. Okay, what else? We have segmentation. Okay, so that will be things that might be happening. Okay, and so on. So based on that methods, then we try to go in the for example, classification, detection, and segmentation. So we try to get the things that what is happening inside this particular task. So because of identification is a broad one. So underneath of the identification will be classification, detection, and segmentation. So we might see this one, guys. What are the existing work that has been done? So we might looking up the trend, approaches, and software. So then we try to find this as so example, the trend right now is in this particular method is using the features. What else? Deep learning. Okay, machine learning, or what else? So that would be analysis. So whereby we could see that qualification and quantification kind of approaches. So for example, so after we went there, we try to find the trend of the things that happening right now. So we try to minimize our scope to be what is the approaches has been used. Either that would be kind of quantification or qualifications, right? So obviously software is means that authoring tools and kind of things will be desired afterwards, because of we need to have good tools in order to do the research, right? Okay, then back to the deal. Okay, for example, so it's classification, meaning to say that the things that happen right now is deep learning, right? Detection, say that we have YOLO things. The segmentation, we have how to say let's say XY technology, and we have also in classification we have how to say, instead of deep learning, so we have many approaches under here. So we try to make things listed down as a list. Okay, right? So rather than go to that particular a broad one, so we might list down them with the possible or the things that has been done by all the researchers all over the world. So we have several things and things. So then we try to minimize them. What is happening in this field? So is it using the image itself? So example, image. So either it's not using the image per se. So meaning to say that we try to the sum might be the sum system, instead of using the image, they put it image into something else and something else, right? So that would be things to be considered as 1, 2, and 3. So right. So talking about the classification in the broad and detection in the broad and so on and so forth. So then we might see that, okay, say that the current how to say, the current trend for this identification purposes, researchers is doing this. Okay, images, right? So talk about image, everything is familiar with image. Okay, so how if we try to different way, like image, if we're not mistaken, that we have RGB and so on and so forth. So we also do have this several kind of image properties, right? We have hid images. Okay, somehow we also might use image as a feature, for example, right? So it's not been assumed that image itself will be used as input data. as per classification task, but there are a variety of things. Okay, speaking of the using image, so we'll see what is the performance of the classification using the image itself, right? So say that the current trend for that particular image was like 95%, for example. So then this is creating a good gap for us, the opportunity to rise up the performance based on image perspective for classification. That will be the example in the identification task, right? Okay, so then about the detection. So detection and segmentation. Okay, we jump to segmentation. Segmentation is kind of tricky or interesting rising subfield, because we do the mini competition happen in the segmentation, whereby they might be talking about the object segmentation and attribute segmentation, feature segmentation, and so on, part segmentation, right? So based on the segmentation history, so before this, the segmentation was happen like differentiating. This is human, right? For example, this is road, and this is tree, for example. So this tree, this human, and this road will be three object segmentation in that particular moment. Okay, so then people are realizing that the information gained from object segmentation is still not enough. So then that will be a gap for going deeply to how, if we go for this tiny thing, so what color of shirt that wore by the guy and the female. Okay, so things like that. So what is the characteristic, who is he or who is she, either male or female, right? So that would be kind of things. So then again, if we are trying to look at the how to say the attribute at that particular things, so we also might be going deeply into, for example, the shirts. So what is the characteristic of the shirts? So let's say whether it is cotton or something else. So yeah, so during this particular time, people are thinking that there's still a gap to jump over here before we go to the attribute. Basically, people are looking up to the whole object of the target object, right? Human, trees, and road. So there will be a gap there. For speaking of, we still have limited. So the keyword is still limited. Information. Okay, sorry for that. For finding the goods. How to say? For finding the goods approach to extend and to improve the limitation of current studies. So that will be what we have in a broad field. Okay, speaking of the specific field, for example, we talk about identification just now. Okay, right? So this identification, we have classification, right? Just now we talk about classification, detection, and segmentation, right? Okay, so in specific field, what we say, so this one, it could be broad one. So in this classification, okay, let's say the normal native classification, whereby we do in image to image, right? Okay, so say that the image in RGB on HSV is in value as the properties as 0.25, and say that this one is 0.24. So by comparing these two values, basically we can say that the image 1 and image 2 is similar based on that kind of things. So that would be the class, things like that. So to be broad, let's say 0.22 until 0.29 is considering as one of a class. Okay, so say that the 0 until 30 until 39 is basically the class number 2. So that what is the common things has been done in specific field for the classification. Okay, bear in mind, okay, So this comparison over here is still comparing the value. So how about if there will be a gap over here saying that, so we have an image, so let's say this kind of image, we try to portray them in a different way, like kind of a feature map. Okay, so image 1 is this map, while image 2 is this map, right? For example, so we try to compare this map and this map. We are not comparing the value. Okay, so just now is the value, so means the research for going down to the value is kind of too many things has been done. So we might immigrate to other field, and in order to give the more accurate and reliable result for that particular analysis, right? So whereby the approach of having to see the image as a feature has been done, I think approximate early in 2000. So then again we have after we face the feature maps based on the image comparison, so whereby we have DL over here. Okay, so DL obviously a deep learning, we just put the images in our neural network, and the neural will be setting A or B, right? So that would be things happen in that particular field. So rather than speaking of the image, for example, so image could be an original image of object, right? So say that we are speaking of observing the, how to say, soil under the ground to see the frequency underneath of the ground. So in the general idea, we might say that by giving sound to the depth of the ground could describe the quality of the soil. Okay, meaning in Malaysia we have tanah liat, what we call tanah laterite, and so on and so forth, sand and so on. So but if we try to change this, how to say, to give the sound on the to the ground, and we change the paradigm sound to something else, could be a new things to be done based on that particular field, right? So yeah, so by giving some new ideas for that specific field, so we might fill up the research gap that happened in those specific field, right? So meaning to say here there's still a room of improvement over here, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, speaking of the research understanding limitation and conducted study. Okay, research obviously we can think like this. Okay, say that the A and B classification, so every single thing comparing A and B class has been discussed by classification, things like that. So this is the domain. Okay, so many researchers done the research of based on that methods, right? So speaking of this, is could be B, right? This one is A, this one is B. So B, it could be this way. So the behavior of splitting these items A and B is basically the keywords for do the classification, right? Either we use it could be if everything is clear, we can use the classification for instance, but speaking of the value, we might use the regression, right? So that would be the things. So comparing to the understanding, so say that the 2000, 2010, 2022, so the understanding of all the researchers happen to be A and B doing the grouping, right? So then goes to 2010, A and B goes to A and B could be intersect, and A and B could be closer, kind of. Okay, so that would be the things that to be argued and fill up. So based on the 2000 year, basically this place could be filled up by something else, kind of. Okay, so then if we talk about 2010 A and B, for example, so the limitation of the intersection spaces subset is not enough. So is it we can extend the question here. Can we extend the intersection space of the subset A and B in a proper way, or kind of a reliable approach? So then we close the gap of that particular things. So then again, we also we try to see that the understanding of all the researchers at that particular time to concept of research has been done will be priority of this understanding. Limitation on the conducted study. Okay, for example, so this time around, speaking about limitation, so as I mentioned earlier, this is image, right? So image itself is RGB. Okay, so the intensity of the color based on the R, based on G, based on B, right? So we do have three components of RGB. So speaking of which, the limitation of this RGB might be happen if we are facing kind of illumination, right? In imaging, we have shading. So because when we talk about shading and so on and so forth, so the characteristic of the clothes, for example, glasses and clothes could different. So it could be an original blue, but under the roof of kind of things, the blue could be seen as dark blue. So for example, so that would be might be changing the features of that particular object, right? So then instead of this, okay, let's say this RGB could be possibly to improve. Say that this shading purposes is the negative impact of the RGB. So the limitation is how to remove the shade, for example. Okay, so how to control the shade before we process the image. So that would be kind of things to be get deeper at the point of limitation of that particular conducted study, right? Okay, so I think that's all for a simple guide from me for the research gap. That's all for me. Thank you. I hope that this video will be beneficial to you, all of you guys. Thank you and Assalamualaikum. Okay, thank you guys for watching NMZH channel. Hopefully you can get knowledge and benefit from the videos. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.